Hey Married at First Sight fans, welcome back to the channel. This is Shantia. So today we're doing a review for the most recent episode. I'm honestly not sure what episode we're on. I think we might be on episode 7 or 6, one or the other. It might be 7. So we're just going to kind of dive in. The main thing that I noticed was showing up for this episode was there's a lot of self-sabotage that was happening, especially with the women. And we are going to get into it today about that because, again, I've talked about it before on my channel, is women, you lead your relationship emotionally. And so when you don't maintain emotional control, when you're not understanding that you're projecting, and the thing is, you're projecting, you can't hide it when it comes to marrying a stranger, because if problems start to come up right away, triggers start to come up right away, you've only known this person for, a matter of days and weeks. If triggers are already showing up, that just goes to show you the things you need to work on. So we're going to get into talking about that today. And I think the big incident that happened this week was with Alexis and Justin's dog. So we'll get into talking about that, of course. So as per usual, I'm going to just, do the order that's on the website here, starting with Lindy and Miguel. So Lindy and Miguel. So for the most part, I think they're bonding. They're feeling really comfortable with each other. They are liking each other. They're vibing with each other. They're falling in love. They're feeling all of those good, joyous emotions. Whenever I'm watching the two of them together, they seem to have a lot of really cute scenes. Like when they're laughing, it just feels so beautiful. But the thing that starts to come up, of course, right, is the triggers. So for Lindy, her trigger is that he keeps using the word decision day. In the previous episodes, Miguel was talking about how, we have to get to know each other for these 8 weeks, then we'll decide. But then he starts to tell her and he starts to change his mind. Why does he start to change his mind? What's going on? Because he's starting to feel his heart. So this is what I say all the time. Men, I'm going to put my heart necklace out. Men get very logical when they can't feel their heart. But when they start to feel their heart, they become less logical. They're not thinking about the numbers. They're not thinking about the weeks. They're not thinking about, do you have debt? They just care about you, because more than anything, men want to be in love, because women are love. They are the embodiment of, those mushy, beautiful, flower-like blossoming of emotions. That's where they get to experience that. So if anything, that's what men want the most. It's to be able to be in love, to be able to experience that. So once they start feeling that, they're going to leave the logic behind. But then what starts to happen is Lindy starts to self-sabotage. So she starts talking about the triggers, and while they're sitting down, they're having a conversation with Pastor Cal. She's talking about how, hey, if something bothers you and you start to pull away, I need you not to tell me. This is like the whole time they're having that conversation with Pastor Cal. This is what I was feeling in my eyes were doing this. Like, what is going on? And my head was doing this, because I was just like, I feel so confused, or it just feels like there's a layer upon layer upon layer of complexity upon complexity. I just feel like she most definitely is an overthinker. I feel like she's overthinking the entire situation. She's piling on too much information. She's piling on too much. Both of them actually are projecting too much into the future. Here's the thing. Once she starts to self-sabotage and she starts to get into her head and she starts telling him, well, don't do this. If you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. Guess what he's going to start doing? He's going to start leaning into his logic, pulling away from the heart emotions and leaning into his logic. Now he's thinking, 8 weeks. You see what I mean? Like, why do women do this to ourselves? Like, the man is literally there saying, he's telling you, hey, I'm going to change decision day into vow renewal day. I'm falling in love with you. I can fill my heart with you. You're making me change my mind. You're making me see things differently. But the minute she starts projecting into the future and thinking about all her fears and her anxieties and all her triggers, he's like, okay, I can't feel my heart anymore. So men they're naturally very analytical. They're naturally logical. So that's why they lean into logic, because they go into protection mode when they can't feel their heart, right? If they feel like their heart is safe with you, they're going to open up. They're going to feel vulnerable. They're going to not care about all of those silly things that, and even maybe even things like finances, like the debt, you have debt. Okay, whatever. We'll take care of it together because I feel my heart with you. I'm feeling emotions towards you. I'm not worried about that. I'm more concerned about being in love. Okay. So that was one primal example of self sabotage showing up with Lindy. It's the overthinking. Women have a tendency to do this. Um, they have a nice vibe together. He said he feels accepted by her. He said that he's built a connection with her that takes months, if not years. I could have sworn he said years to build with his previous partners. So the love is there. The emotions are there. Don't self sabotage. Once someone starts giving you their heart, just lean into it. Stop projecting into the future. Stop creating challenges and complexity where there need not be any. Don't create challenges in life. Life is inherently challenging. You don't have to create challenges. You don't have to be like, well, what if this happens? All you need really is the tools. Enjoy each other. Enjoy being in love. Enjoy your relationship. All you need are the tools should anything happen. So I feel like that's showed up for her in the past. She does, sometimes, she talks a lot and then she just talks. Miguel handles it pretty well. But he's starting to feel his heart now. But now she's starting to show these insecurities are coming up and whatnot. Stop communicating all of your fears and process that, journal that. That's not for him to deal with. And this is something that I think women, because we are more of the emotional creatures, but men can do this too. Women have a tendency to do in their partnerships where they're like, oh, I need you to help me figure out all of my emotions. No. He's not there to help you figure out and fix all of your emotions. You go do that. That's your work. That's your inner work that you're supposed to do. Take the accountability, take the responsibility. Yes. They're cute together, we'll see, but they have to push through these insecurities, and she has to understand what she's doing, that she has a tendency to self-sabotage through this overthinking. Moving on to Kristen and Mitch. Now, Chris and Mitch are giving an honest effort. They're bonding. I'm getting a genuine friendship between the two of them, which I really, really like. Kristen, they're seemingly very affectionate with one another. What I like about Kristen is she has a very accepting personality. She's just very accepting. She to me feels like a heart person in the sense that she can vibe with and accept people from all walks of life, even though she's her very distinct self. She's still willing to be very open to caring about people. And that's why she's willing to put forth the effort into making things work with Mitch. But I do still think that she's overcompensating because Mitch, he has his quirks and stuff. And I feel like they're just very different. They're very different in certain ways. I think what Kristen is used to doing is she makes people feel very comfortable around her, right? Mitch said, hey, thank you so much for being here for me, so supportive, so patient, and dealing with my craziness. I'm like, okay. But, my concern with Kristen has always been, make sure you're caring about your needs too and making sure your needs are met. So I think one really good example of the overcompensation was that she... Sorry. I'm thinking about something else, then I'm thinking about something else. Okay. The overcompensation, she did the coupon thing. And I was just like, okay. To me, even though it was very sweet and cute for her to approach romance in that way, she's very direct, and assertive. I felt like sometimes she's a little bit too assertive, and especially for Mitch, because I feel like when it comes to masculine and polarity, in order for you to create that chase, you kind of need to let him chase you. So maybe drop hints, but I don't know. I feel like maybe she could have pulled back a little bit more on being like, yeah, ready for the intimacy. I'm ready for the... I'm glad that she's communicating that, but I'm still seeing on Mitch's side that he's needing to still process the relationship. She's just doing a lot to make him feel very welcomed and comfortable. And I think, and like she said, she's had a lot of boyfriends. She falls in love really easily. She said that she's going to fall in love with this man. It just seems like maybe to some degree she's in love with the idea of love. I think Kristen does see people for who they are, but I just feel like she doesn't see her needs or understand how to let people come and meet her halfway. I feel like she's just used to doing so much and just being very accepting and just going and creating that space for people. But I'm just like, it's too much because then it just becomes a little mothering, Let him come towards you a little bit. Now, I like the genuine friendship between the two of them. I like what she talked about during the after party. She said that when she was sick, she needed medicine or something like that, and Mitch walked 2 miles to get her medicine and then to her place or something like that. And she felt really grateful. She felt protected and safe with him, and that's why she's opening up to him. So I think that's a positive. Um, but she also said that while they were at the grocery store, she was so fearful. She said she was more fearful than when she saw his messy house and messy kitchen, which, what I like about Mitch is he's just himself. But I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. I hope she told him, hey, we're gonna have to fix that. But he just seems like a really genuinely kind person. He's not trying to hide anything, which I really like. But she said when they were at the grocery store, he he didn't put the vegetables or something in a bag. He put it in his fanny pack and then he let it roll on the conveyor belt. And they had to go to his special store as opposed to her store. So I'm glad that she's, making that effort. For me, Kristen, in a sense, is more ready, more mature for marriage. The only thing is, the funny part is she's, probably more ready than any of them. But the only thing with her is she overcompensates. It's like she actually needs to pull back. She's doing too much. She's too available. So I just want her to pull back a little bit. But they went to the grocery store and she said that they had to do that and, do all this for Mitch. I'm glad that she's accepting, but at the same time, I hope she's letting him know what she likes too, what's important for her too. That's it. Otherwise, you're just not creating enough polarity in your relationship. They're okay. They're okay together. I think when they were having that conversation with Pastor Cal, and she was saying, oh yeah, we're together, they're leaning, they're holding hands. It was interesting. I feel like it's genuine, but I also feel like, again, it's a little overdone to some degree. Not like she's trying to be fake. I think she's just trying to be overly welcoming of and overly optimistic. I keep getting that vibe from her that she's overly optimistic about everything. I think it's important to be optimistic, but you don't want to overcompensate. You want to make sure that this person is doing the work too with you. She said that they're not looking forward, or they haven't had that conversation about the future, about being together. Mitch often has a slightly concerned, confused look on his face. Like, is this what I want? Because I think at the core, Mitch is missing this aspect of himself where he's needing to understand what he wants in a relationship. I think he's just one of those people who, he's late to relationships. He could probably wait another 10 years and that would be his time to be in a partnership if he really wanted it. He said he wants kids. But he's just going to be one of those guys, has kids later, gets in a relationship later. So I'm like, if the two of them break up, I wouldn't be sad and I wouldn't be surprised. But I think he's the type of person, he just needs a little bit more time to find himself in that sense. Because he was also later to finding his purpose, right? He just came to embracing the climate thing. And this is the true way that he wants to live as opposed to being very corporate. So I think he should just go explore and continue to seek. And then he'll get to a point where he's like, okay, I know exactly what I want, exactly what I'm looking for in a partnership. I can't wait. But to me, I'm like, as far as age goes and marriage goes, for men, unfortunately, they have that leisure. They have the convenience. Of course, you're going to be an older parent. You might want to watch out for that. But you have the leisure, you have the time to wait for marriage. It's just, one of the things that comes with being a man in this world. Okay, so yeah, they're working on their partnership. Let's go ahead and move on to Alexis and Justin. Okay, so it was so interesting. As soon as Alexis and Justin got back to their apartment, there was so much foreshadowing around the dogs. So much foreshadowing. What's missing from the home? Oh, the pets. Do you think your dog's gonna like my dog? Maybe. It was very weird. But it was interesting because there was a shift in the energy too. They were in this loving honeymoon phase. And then they got back to their homes. And even prior to their dogs meeting, there was a shift in their energy. Justin, his energy, I don't know if he was tired or what was going on, but he just seemed a little bit pulled back. And so did she. And I didn't know what that was. I think maybe the honeymoon phase kind of It's dwindling down for them. Energetically, that's just what I'm sensing and picking up. Now, their dogs got to meet. Justin's dog is very territorial and attacked her dog. So Maya attacked, is it Neuter? I'm not even sure. Something with an N, maybe. But his dog attacked her dog, and she was just not having it. She was very protective of her dog. She was very upset. I think she handled it in the moment. She wasn't screaming or yelling or freaking out. She was just like, okay, this is my baby. I'm in protective mode. Let's go. Now, Justin's reaction was very interesting. It was very interesting because when his dog attacked her dog, she was like, what happened? He's like, oh, nothing happened. I was like, what do you mean nothing happened? There's just something about the passivity. So I think when Alexis was talking about he's not being honest and he's not being truthful, there's something there. I think he was genuinely very sorry and wish he had been much more attentive and taken the initiative to prepare for the situation better. But I also think he was like, he knew something in the back of his head. And maybe he was just hoping for the best. But it was a little too passive for me. The way that he, does my hair look kind of crazy? I took a nap and then I was just like, what's going on there? But I feel like he knew something. I didn't think he thought his dog was going to attack her dog, but I think he felt like there was a potential and he was avoiding talking about it. So Alexis is saying, hey, you're not honest. You're not a truthful person. I mean, are we getting that vibe? Again, the self-sabotage is coming up. I'm like, okay. So last week you're in love. Marriage is easy. This week you're ready to end the marriage if he doesn't get rid of his dog, which I just thought was absolutely heartless. Okay, maybe not absolutely. I don't know. It was heartless. I think Alexis is really cool, and I understand she loves her dog, but I think that is kind of heartless. That's his baby. Just like that's your baby. Just because his baby attacked your baby doesn't mean it's not still his baby. And he took action immediately. So this is where the masculinity starts to show up. If a man takes action and they start to solve the problem, that's when you have a partner. If he didn't do anything and he was very passive about it, if he didn't show any emotions, if he didn't show any remorse, then I would be concerned. But he took action right away. He was like, okay, we're going to get my dog trained. We're going to go. What can I do to help? And here she is, self-sabotaging again. I'm like, what is it? Women, like, I know we are vulnerable creatures to some degree. We are emotional creatures. But what is it with allowing people to love you and care for you and just like help you? Like, so many women self-sabotage their partnerships, their connections, their the opportunity to love and have real love because they, like, the minute something goes wrong, they're just like, let me hold on to this thing, even though this person is in front of you, caring about you, showing you, demonstrating to you, and you won't take it. So what can I say to that? Yeah, so self-sabotagey things are coming up there. There are a lot of qualities I really like about Alexis. I like that she doesn't get like an uproar or upset, but there's a firmness to her. There is a wall. The wall is up. And this is what I say about the trust thing. Like, women are talking about trust in the 5th episode or 6th episode after the honeymoon, after 2 weeks of knowing this person. You're talking about, oh, you don't have my trust anymore. Trust takes time to build. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like you don't have any trust. It's like we're building trust. If he doesn't have any trust, he should have some kind of trust. I'm like, you can't build a marriage without a foundation of trust. I'm genuinely confused. I'm like, how can you go from marriage is great, I love this man, to I don't trust you? How can you love someone you don't trust? That doesn't make any sense to me. To me, trust should come before the love. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Y'all gotta explain this to me. Where's the lot? Like, I don't get it. How can you love someone but not trust them? How can someone lose your trust so easily? To me, if your trust is so easily lost, you never gave them any trust to begin with. Because we're human. We make mistakes. We're allowed to make mistakes. You're learning each other. So I was not happy with her response, but I thought it was very selfish, you know? You get rid of your dog if you want this marriage to work. Excuse me? I'm sorry, but I've known this dog for years. This is my baby. I've known you for 2 weeks. That's not a marriage. Compromise. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to, and that's like immature too. If you can't compromise in that sense. And if, again, the trust thing, trust takes time to build. You're giving someone trust. You're giving them trust, a little bit of trust at a time. Okay, so moving on to Stacia and Nate. So Stacia and Nate are moving in together. Stacia showed her beautiful house. Stacia makes twice as Nate. Stacia is ready to have babies right then and there. And Nate is like, well, I want to make a certain amount before, because he wants to be a provider. I like that. I like that attitude. I like that approach, but she's ready to have babies now. And in this modern world, we can compromise and we can figure things out. So I'm like, as long as you guys have the money to support the child, and you guys genuinely care about each other, then it makes sense. Yeah, there's some fear around having kids, but sometimes that happens. Some people are just ready, some people aren't. It depends on what you grew up in and what you've seen. So he's not ready for kids yet. In general, she's ready. Yesterday, he's not ready, is what I'm getting. Nate. So they're showing each other's places. Stacia is uncomfortably clean to the point where her house is like staged. Staged in the sense like she lives in a staged house. Like her house is like very and overly clean and uncomfortably clean. What I have to say about this is, I don't know. I feel like she's gonna have to find a compromise. Like, you're a unicorn, just like Mitch with the climate thing. You're a unicorn. People are not that clean. Like, most people are not that clean. So, and when she saw Nate's house, by the way, Nate's house looked fine. It looks fine. It looked clean. It looked good. The wine glasses, that was kind of gross. The fact that he had empty oatmeal, that was weird, but he's a bachelor. He's a guy. And I feel like guys do that. I'd be more concerned if he didn't wash his sheets or from time to time, or, clean his bathroom like Mitch's, or clean the stove like Mitch. That would be a little bit off-putting for me. But for Nate, I'm like, she's lucky she got him because he's decently clean. So they're talking about the coffee thing, about buying this expense. I don't know. There's not really anything to say to that discussion. She's smart, Nate, so be careful. She's smart. This girl knows what she's doing. She knows what she wants. I think the challenge between the two of them, again, Stacia is just very assertive. She knows what she wants. And I think she has this very feminine quality about her. It's the way she speaks and the way she moves too, energetically. I think she's quite feminine, but she just has to, I don't know. I think when it comes to Nate, I'm not entirely sure he can handle this strength, this amount of strength from a woman, because she's very strong, like in her foundation, who she is and whatnot. So I'm not sure. So the primary issue that came up between them, hold on, let me sip this. So the primary issue that came up between Nate and Stacia was that, other than them wanting to have kids soon, was the vulnerability. She says he just talks about the surface level things, and she needs more in order for her to reveal more and be vulnerable enough to consummate their marriage, which, makes perfect sense to me. He says he'll talk about it when it's organic and natural. I feel like his argument is valid, and that's kind of why there's a difference between marriage versus courting. Because, in a courting stage, that would be perfectly fine. And if you feel like this person wasn't opening up, you would just be like, okay, time to move on. So Nate does have some kind of blockage around vulnerability. And I think this really showcased itself when he was talking about Justin and Justin crying and being overly emotional when it came to reacting to Ben's situation with Morgan. When he was crying in that previous episode, he was like, it's weird. He's like, it's weird. You don't cry like that, So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. honestly, a lot of men do have that reaction to seeing another man cry, and Justin does cry a lot. He cries more than most people. Honestly, I'm just gonna say in general, he cries more than most people. Like, very emotional. He's the unique in that sense. That's his thing. That's the way he works. I would be more concerned if someone held in their emotions and they are so pent up with their emotions. That would be more concerning to me than someone who's just like, they show their emotions. I would be more concerned with someone who holds it in, because emotions are not meant to be held in. You bottle it up, it will explode. And it can be ugly if it does. So Nate's needing to work on that vulnerability. I think the way the two of them can tackle that is she can find some kind of exercises. Like, there are cards you can buy like on Amazon where you ask questions, vulnerability questions about relationships, intimacy, or just like anything in general that will help to bring in more emotional intimacy. You can do that. You can read books together. You can watch shows together. You can go to therapy together. And I think she brought that up prior, like, hey, let's go to therapy. I think Nate will be open. I'd be more concerned if he was closed off to not even trying. So I would say give it an effort. I'd like that Stacia said that I don't want to have to make you open up. But yes, she's communicating that. I would say be a little bit more strategic, as opposed to like having these discussions about you need to open up, because that might actually exhaust him emotionally or overwhelm him emotionally. Just demonstrate. I would just buy cards or buy a book and just say, hey, let's do this. And yeah, maybe open up first and just see what happens. But also, another thing to keep in mind is your spouse is not your therapist. So just be careful of that. Sometimes I know we're supposed to share our emotions. We're supposed to talk to each other about deep emotional things. And of course, they're the one who's going to know us on the deepest level. But just keep in mind your spouse isn't your therapist. Open up, but they're not there to necessarily, they don't have to be there to process or even understand. And anyone in general, I think sometimes we want to be understood, and we want to feel close to people because we're like, if I talk about my emotions and feelings and people understand me, I'll feel better. But really, you're just needing to understand yourself and learn how to heal yourself. And when you're deeply connected to yourself in the most intimate way, where you're honest about how you feel, you don't feel the need to compensate or actually even seek a partnership to make up for that. Partnerships are an amplification of you. They mirror what's going on inside of you. So the triggers inside of you, the growth inside of you, that's what partnerships do. They mirror everything inside of you. So just keep that in mind. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that came up. Is Nate being genuine or not genuine? Again, I don't think people are ever entirely ingenuine. I think people just hide parts of themselves. From Nate, he projects a lot in the sense where, like, if you're in front of an audience, you're more self-conscious. I just get that he's a little bit more self-conscious about his image. Like, Stacia is self-conscious about her image, but I feel like Nate is also too, in the masculine version of being self-conscious about his image. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward. But he was very honest. Like, I liked how honest when he said he thought it was weird that Justin cries. He said that Justin is the person he wouldn't really go to for certain advice because he thinks he's emotional and kind of all over the place. I thought that was very direct and honest. And I think, hey, if you're direct, honest, that's a really good trait. Okay, so we're going to move on to our final couple, Morgan and Ben. So Morgan and Ben can't even get anywhere because Morgan is stuck in the fact that Ben betrayed her, backstabbed her by telling Justin about her situation and overreacting, saying that she wasn't a nurse or lied about that situation. She said her trust was broken and taken away. So Morgan, this is my personal opinion. It's a personal opinion. It's starting to bother me. She's starting to bother me with all this, no, my trust is gone. I'm like, you don't even know him. Yes, he might have said something, but he was genuinely very apologetic about it. Again, the self-sabotage is just through the roof. And you most definitely know that she was self-sabotaging because when they were sitting down having that conversation with Pastor Cal, she was talking about how my father And then she starts crying. Yeah, Ben isn't your father. And he didn't create the situation with your father. He's a stranger. You don't really know him. So this is just something to be self-aware of is, when you start reacting and you start having all these triggers immediately, it's because something still hasn't healed. And that's fine. Most likely when you get into a marriage or partnership, you're going to marry someone who mirrors you, right? They're your reciprocal. They're going to have issues. They're going to need to be healed. That's why, when you're impulsive, you marry young and you have so many trauma to still process, your marriage from that age is just, it's so hard to keep. It's so hard to keep if you don't have that foundation. So, kudos to people who have gotten married young and stayed and stuck through it, because, that's when more people, like when you wait till your 30s or, even later to get married, to get into a partnership and solidify it, you have more time to work on yourself without the addition of someone else's stuff too. So you're going to marry someone, they're going to have stuff that needs to be dealt with. But you need to be self-aware what you're projecting. Pastor Cal was just like, whose walls are up, Morgan? My walls. Who can bring the walls down, Morgan? I can bring the walls down. There you go. You're the answer. You're the problem, but you're the answer to the problem. Which I know people probably wouldn't want to hear that, but it's true. It's like we're the problem, but we're the answer to our problems. So it's like, if you want to resolve it, it's up to you. Don't put it on this person and project on this person and be like, oh, you lost my trust. It's gone. You don't even know him. What do you mean he lost your trust? It takes years to build real trust. It's layers, right? We got the first level, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Now you got so much of my loyalty, so much of my trust. It accumulates over time. You don't just give someone trust and then it's lost. I'm like, if your trust falls away so fast, you're not actually giving people trust. You're not actually vulnerable. You're actually afraid, right? And that's what I'm getting from Morgan is she's afraid she's actually afraid to be in love. She's actually afraid to be in a relationship. She's afraid to feel that. That's why she just keeps them at a distance. You don't even know this person, but you're ready to push them out of your life because you're so afraid. The minute a problem shows up, as opposed to resolving it together, you're like, I want to run away. You might be saying, I'm defensive, I'm protecting myself, but actually it's just you saying, I'm scared. There's a difference. Sometimes, yes, you need protection, but sometimes you're scared. And you have to be able to differentiate the two. Okay, so, because he's not trying to hurt her. He's like, I'm sorry. I want to do the work. I want to help you. Ben, you look at him, he feels genuinely bad. And what bothers me is that she's making him feel bad about this mistake. I know he made the mistake. He's still having to mature. The boy, sorry about that. The man just turned 30. He just turned 30. He's still learning, okay? He's still learning. He's still young in this Western American world here. It takes him a little bit longer to mature into marriage here, especially if you don't grow up in like a traditional setting, or like a more religious, strict setting where you see examples everywhere. He's still learning. Learn how to re-educate, learn how to communicate to your partner, learn how to talk, learn how to have conversations, learn how to be vulnerable, learn how to be self-aware, know that you're projecting, know that you're doing all of this. So that's just the thing that bothers me. This independent, tough girl mentality, it really is just like a wall. It's really just showing that you're scared. You're scared to love, you're scared to be vulnerable, you're scared to get hurt. And, the people who get to experience real love, they risk that. They risk getting hurt. They're the bravest people of all who put themselves out there. They open their heart. That is risky. To be in love, that is risky. Or to choose to love, because, you're making yourself more vulnerable. But I'm like, it's either you become vulnerable and you learn how to be strong through your vulnerability. You learn how to trust. You learn how to trust. She's going to have a hard time trusting in general people for her entire life if she's not able to see this that she's projecting onto him. It's not him. It's not about that he broke your trust necessarily, more than it's about you understanding your relationship to trust, learning how to build trust and trust people, you trusting people, learning to do that. Okay, so, from Ben, I think he's genuine. He sounded just really bad. Even in the after party, he's like, I take accountability for everything that I did. And I think I'm getting strong Asian mentality from him. In the Asian culture, when they feel very bad, they feel very bad, like very guilty, because they live in a very collective culture. So it's like if one person brings down the entire building or whatever, that's how they feel. They feel the weight of the world sometimes because they carry the weight of their family and the generations before them on their back. So they feel that weight. And I really got the sense that he's like, okay, I failed. And I'm like, and again, this is why I want women to be so much self-aware of their power. Like, do you see how that impacted him? Like, he feels so bad. By the way, that's provider mentality. I take accountability. I take responsibility. Look what I did, the domino effect that I created. I feel bad for our unit and what we're able to create and breaking that trust. But, you know, I say women, you have power because look at how bad he feels, even though it's not actually fully his fault. A lot of it is, I'm not even going to say a lot of it is her fault because maybe that sounds mean. But yeah, it is, because it was a problem before. The problem already existed before he came into the picture. He triggered it. That's it. He triggered the wound. So that's really what it is. She's just been triggered. It's been turned on. So my thing is, if she works through this, great. If she doesn't work through this, the problem is just going to keep cycling into your life until you tackle it. That's all that's going to happen. Okay, so wow, like very serious, right? I feel like this review was quite serious, quite intense. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Maybe next week we'll have more humor, but this entire episode, I don't know. I think Lindy and Miguel had some fun, cute moments together. I thought were really like cute, but pretty much every couple, it was like a lot of seriousness. Stacia was giggling like a little girl when Pastor Cal walked in and he's like, wow, this is the most happy I've ever seen you. Her and Nate have some cute cuddle moments in the bed that I think I find endearing. And Kristen and Mitch just give me like, they feel so wholesome. Both of them energetically, they feel so wholesome. And I like that about the two of them. I think Ben is very sweet and very, again, I don't feel like he's hiding anything. I'm like, this is a good guy. He's a good guy. It's just, you know, he makes mistakes, but you got to forgive. Forgiveness is just one of those qualities you're going to have to learn, especially when it comes to partnerships. You're going to have to, it's one of the tools you're going to need is to forgive, because it's not because this person's going to do things to hurt you, but it's because they're going to trigger you because they're your mirror. And last note, I want to talk about triggers. Again, Lindy was talking about her triggers and I'm triggered by this. It's not another person's responsibility to know your triggers necessarily. I mean, maybe respect them. Maybe they can know them, but it's not their responsibility to fix your triggers. You know, I like how Miguel took the action, or he immediately changed the decision day wording to Val Renuo. I thought that was very masculine energy of him. He took action. He's like, you're my woman. I want to support you. But my thing is also, whatever triggers you have, again, that's for you to deal with, not your partner to fix. So if you have triggers, it's just showing you deal with it. You know, I feel like tracking all your triggers, it just makes your life more complicated because now you're like, oh my gosh, that triggers me and that triggers me. I don't focus on all the things that trigger me. I focus on seeing past the trigger because I want to be stronger than the trigger. I want to be stronger than the challenge because I just do. I don't want to give my power away to triggers. I'm like, I can't enjoy my life if these things trigger me all the time. I want to just enjoy anything at all times. But it is good to know yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe to support the channel. I'll be back next week for a review.